Time for us to head into Horsham District on the Friday Night Sports Show, and it is the Jeparrot Rainbow Storm Report with Big Peter Weir. Weary, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good, Wayne. It's been good to have the weekend off, and across the club people got a chance to get away and recover after a pretty long run of games there in a row, and it's great for our boys who travel up from Geelong and Adelaide and places like that to get the weekend to spend with their family and friends.
It is. This weekend is a big one. But Weary, I want to ask you, 20 years ago in 2002, in the under-16 grand final against Walpy up Underbull, Peter Weir kicked 3 goals out of the 7 in a match-winning performance.
I think that's a gross exaggeration, Flowman, but yes, I was involved in that under-16 premiership, and we'll be celebrating a bit of a reunion this weekend, so it should be fun to catch up with some blokes I haven't caught up with for a long time and reminisce about the good old days.
Well, I just want to know one thing, Weary. 3 goals out of 7, and you didn't even get a $10 voucher for your performance, not even picked in the best players.
Yeah, I'm still a bit flat on that, Flowman. I might chase up my voucher on Saturday night by the end of the night, but it was a great game from memory and great times at the club. And there's also a number of other premiership celebrations going on, so there'll be some good vibes getting around the club on Saturday, Flowman.
Yes, I noticed your great mate Ash Clugston was there. This Heinrich bloke who took the $10 and best on ground, who is he?
No, he played a great game off half-back. I don't know whether he played much football after that game, Flowman, but I guess best on ground in a grand final is pretty good on the CV.
It is. It's going to be a fantastic day at Rainbow for what is the Sponsors Day and the Life Members Day. Let's review, Peter, though, back the games that Jeparrot Rainbow took on Natimak, and this was a really important game for your blokes. Of course, you've been on the sidelines, so you've had to watch it and see where they're at, but they beat Natimak 16-10 to 7-6 in a very complete performance.
Yeah, it was a great effort. It was blustery conditions, and it took the boys a while to settle into that, but once they changed a bit of strategy and started looking for some shorter targets and really controlling the ball rather than just giving it back to Natimak, they were able to run away with the game in the second half. And Jay Kerwood obviously up front got it on top again with 9 goals. And Scotty Driscoll's having a really consistent season through the midfield, and he was in the better players as well. Yeah,
what a remarkable effort from Jay, leading the goal kicking by an absolute streak now with 35 for the season, and Weary is now daylight away. But what about the reserve grade? The boys have tried hard and they've really come out, and this year it hasn't been easy for you with the numbers and number of guys coming up to seniors, but this was their best performance of the year. 9-7-61 to Natimak, 2-3-15.
Yeah, they needed this win and they got it, and it helps a lot with Jake Parry up forward. They just been struggling to kick goals. Matty Cousins had a day out one week, but apart from that, they've been struggling to find a regular goal kicker. So with Jake, with some strength and good kicking up forward, kicking 4, he made a big difference in that team.
He did, and so did Matthew Millwood and Hayden Jamison, and Maxwell McKenzie and young Patrick Halloran also were amongst it. In the 17 age group, they got mercied here by Natimak. It was a tough one for them in the early part of the game, 11-7 to 1 point.
Yeah, way too good. The Natimak boys have got a pretty slick under-17 group there, so watch for them to improve in the senior ranks in a few years' time.
Seamus Clark and Archie Laverty and Brody Foster, Caleb Bond and Jamie Eckerman and Xander Eckerman all named in the 17's best players. But what about this? The lads came out in the 14s. I don't know that I've ever seen the Jeparrot Rainbow Storm in juniors ever mercy rule aside. It happened. They were magnificent and beat the boys from Natimak. It was a complete performance.
Yeah, big game. We put it on them last week that they had to win this to try and push into that final spot, and now they're equal on points and just a little bit out on percentage. But Xander Eckerman was best on ground, and as you just mentioned, he also had a great game in the under-17, so he's becoming quite a good little footballer, Flowman.
Oh, good kid. William Fisher good, and Bronte Everett, Fletcher Keller, Parker Gould and Ryder Gould also amongst it, and Kane Baston 3, Ryder Gould 3. That's a good effort from young Kane Baston.
Yeah, I like him. He's a good little goal sneak, Flowman. He knows where the goals are. I think he kicked a bag earlier in the year as well. And last night I noted at training a few of the boys were practising their goal kicking, so now they've got a sniff for a few scores. They all want to get on the score sheet, I'd say.
Yes, they do. Okay, up at Rainbow, the netball girls won't be playing, but they did have a good win against Natimak, and it puts them right in the hunt.
Yeah, they're having a great season, and unfortunately they can't play this weekend against Taylor's Lake, with Taylor's not having the A grade, but it probably comes at a good good time also, Flowman, because I know that a couple of the girls played in a few of the premierships that will be celebrated on the weekend, so I'll give them a chance to catch up with some ex-teammates and celebrate their achievements of the past.
Certainly will. Okay, let's get to this massive weekend. We'll go through the other games to be played, and it's Nadimak taking on Kalkee at Nadimak. Oh, I think the Keys will be too good.
Yeah, the Keys are going along quite nicely. Their game last week got interrupted through injury, but they're well on top of Stall halfway through that game, and I think they'll get on top of Nadimak early in this game and run away with another strong win.
There's some real rivals games this round because we've got, in terms of premiership table positions, Narrajua Quantong taking on the Swifts. This is really important.
Yeah, we saw Narrajua Quantong drop that game to Rapanyup, so it probably does prove they are on the slide a little bit this year, but if they've got any chance of keeping in touch with the top two, they need to win. And likewise, as we touched on last week, Stall need to win these types of games too to give themselves every chance to make that final six. So it should be a cracking encounter. I'd expect Narrajua Quantong to bounce back at home, but yeah, and watch for Stall to try and get a fast start. I think probably majority of their games this year have been behind the eight ball from the start, so that's got to be a focus for their team.
Absolutely, a massive game, the next one, and it is between the two of the league leaders and Rapanyup. Are they going to be the side to knock off Harrow Balmoral? This is at Balmoral, a massive game for the Panthers.
Yeah, it is. It should be a great contest as well. Top two teams, they've both probably looked at this and eyeballed it from a few weeks ago and look forward to it. And yeah, going down to Harrow's always a tough gig, Flowman. I think they just take the sheep off the oval the morning before the game and straighten the goalposts up, and there's not much love for the opposition, but it's always good to go down there, but always hard to win. So it should be a great game of footy, and yeah, you've got to pick Harrow at home, but yeah, look for a close contest.
What about this, the Eton Apsley boys take on Conniva Leor, and this one is at Conniva. I think the Saints, if the Saints are to play finals football, they've got to win this weekend and probably need a bit of percentage, and maybe their key forward will get some.
Yeah, I think the Saints will win this. It's interesting, last week they announced that Conniva now will no longer pursue the merger with Nil, so they're looking at it staying as a standalone club, and if they're going to stay in the District League, I'd say this could become quite a rivalry just because they're such close teams down in that part of the world, and yeah, I think it should be quite a spirited game. Both teams will be fresh coming off the bye, but yeah, you've got to pick Eden Hope to be too good for Conniva in that one.
And a couple of cellar dwellers, but Pimpernio take on Laharam at Cameron Oval, and is it a chance for Clint Burdett's boys to get home?
I think it should be a really good contest. Both teams are quite similar in the fact that they've got a lot of young players who can really play the game, but probably finding their feet at senior level. But both teams are also complemented by, at the opposite end of the scale, blokes who have played 10 plus good years of senior footy. So both teams are similar, and we'll just see which one's ahead of each other in their progress on the weekend. But yeah, once again, I think the home team in Lahara might be just too good for the Pimpernio boys.
Okay, senior football for you blokes. Rainbow, front of all the sponsors' tents. The girls are having their premiership reunions on the netball court. Will you be able to get home against the Taylors Lakes boys, kick some percentage, which I think could be important, particularly if you want to have any hope at all of a top two. But at this stage, I reckon that you should get over the line.
Yeah, I think we will. It's a very important game, and also with the percentage, as you said, Flowman, that's definitely a factor in the league come later in the year. But yeah, we're always very respectful of the Taylors Lake team. They got us in a final there one day, and that still burns. And not too many teams go through a season without having at least one win. So at some stage they will upset a team, and we've just got to make sure it's not us this weekend, and we get a chance to play our own football and play a good game in front of a lot of good club people.
Tell you what, the reserve grade, your blokes who've got Taylors Lake in 10th place, you blokes are at 3 and 5 in 8th. But a win here would keep you in touch with that top six. Your percentage is a problem, so you want to win it and probably need to win it well.
Yeah, it's the best team we've put on the park by a mile this year in the reserves grade, Flowman. We would have had over 30 on the track last night, and I snuck off a little bit early expecting to see a few boys in the shed, and there was not one person in the shed. So that just shows that spots are competitive, and the blokes are keen to play well this weekend, and I think the reserves will run away with a big victory against Taylors Lake.
There's no under 17 grade because Taylors Lake haven't got a side in, but does that mean a couple of the really good kids in your 17s play in the reserves?
In usual, yes, that would be the case. But as I just touched on, we've got a couple back as Connor Inkster's come back and he's a senior player. And Adam Schultz, the plumber, Flowman, as you know him, is lined himself up at full forward. So with a couple of extras in the reserves, we won't need the under-17 boys. So they'll be able to have a weekend off.
Oh, I tell you what, with Schultzy back there, he'll be not just kicking goals, but he'll be making sure that everyone else around him gives him the high fives, that is for sure. What about the 14-year-old kids? These lads come out and they take on the Taylors Lake boys. Now, Taylors Lake at this grade are on the bottom. Your lads are in 7th position. They're on 84% right now. They're equal on points with Rapanyup in 5th and Harrow Balmoral in 6th. Your percentage just below Harrow Balmoral's. You want to get percentage this weekend, win the game, because if you do, then you are a real chance of that top 6.
Yeah, that's the aim for the boys, and they'll be hoping to have a good win. But as we know in footy, Flo, man, you can't get too far ahead of yourself. So hopefully the coaches get them to stick to their team football and not all try and run forward and get a goal. And if they can play a nice game of team footy, I think the result will take care of itself. And by the end of the weekend, they'll be in the finals.
I'll tell you what, they don't have to play any 17s afterwards, the kids that are playing 2 games, so they can know that in the knowledge in the back of their mind that you go absolutely hammer and tongs right through that 4th quarter. You're not being pulled off the ground onto the bench so that you can get ready for the next level. So I reckon there's a real chance of the mercy rule here coming into play. Tell you what, that there's a real chance that there'll be a big crowd of netball girls, all their reunions for their great premierships, and then the under-16 reunion for the boys. 20 years ago, big Peter Weir was 3-goal kicker and didn't get in the best players at the grand final. Weary, you've got to have something to say this weekend about that.
Yeah, I'm still flat play, man, but anyway, I might move on by the end of the weekend.
Thanks for joining us, Peter.
All right, see you, Flo, man.